school system will be in really good hands as long as Lori Williams is with us. Thank you so much. There are many, many people that suffer daily under the totalitarian regime of China and Vietnam and other totalitarian countries around the world. We certainly heard from His Holiness the Dalai Lama of Tibet. I am now most pleased to call to the podium the leader of the Uyghur people in northwestern part of Asia that is under the domination of the Chinese regime, and coming with her is the Vice President of the Uyghur Association of America, Aleem Saitov, who will translate for Ms. Kadir. Please give her a warm welcome.
Rahmat. Hammalar bugün biz bu yerga yig'ilganlar butun hammamiz erkinlik uchun yig'ildik.
Thank you very much for all coming. We are all here today for freedom.
Şu vaqtda özünün erkinligi uchun dunyoga ovozini anglatish uchun qon to'kkan barliq qahramonlarning ovozini dunyoga anglatish uchun yig'ildik.
And we are here today to remember those who sacrificed their lives on that tragic day for the freedom of all.
Bugün Speaker Nancy Pelosi hanım Tibet meselesi ve Jungo meselesiga ko'ngil bildirganligi haqida nihoyat yaxshi so'zladi. Men cheksiz rahmat aytaman.
I would like to especially express my thanks to Madam Speaker Nancy Pelosi for her passion for human rights in China and Tibet.
Biz 1949 yılı Şarkı Türkistan yani mening vatanim Şinjan Uyghur Abdunum rayonini besib olgandan tartib ta hozirgacha o'z ovozimizni dunyoga angltamay keldik Uyghur millati.
And the Uyghur people, since the Chinese Communist government took over our homeland East Turkestan in 1949, we have not been able to raise the voice of the suffering Uyghur people to this very day.
Uyg'urlar xuddi aşı Tiananmen vakasida qanday bastırgan bolsa bugüngacha Jungo kommunistlar tarafidan shunday orqama-orqa bastırılib kelyapti.
The Uyghur people, just like the students gunned down at the Tiananmen Square during the June 4th massacre, are still being systematically persecuted by the Chinese Communist authorities in China.
Mana bugün biz Capitol Hill'ning oldida Jungo'ninki Hanzu xalqi bilan, Tibet xalqi bilan Uyg'ur xalqining ovozini dunyoga yetkazish fursatiga bugungi kunlarda erishdik.
So today we have the opportunity, together with our Chinese brothers, Tibetan brothers, and all those who are suffering under Chinese rule, to fight for our freedom.
Biz cho'qim o'zimizning erkinligiga chiqamiz.
We shall overcome.
Biz cho'qim o'zimizning maqsadiga yetamiz.
We will be free.
Biz Jungo'ning diktatori ustidan g'alaba qilamiz.
We will overcome the dictatorial regime in China.
Dunyoga ovozini anglatan har qanday bir millat o'zining tirishchanligi bilan, o'zining harakati bilan o'z erkinligini talab qilib, Amerikadagi demokratiya davlatda cho'qim o'zi g'alaba qiladi.
I believe that all the oppressed people in the world under dictatorial regimes will eventually gain their freedom with the support of Western democracies like the United States.
Ben bugün özüm İngilizceni yaxshi bilmaganligim uchun bütün sözümni yozma bilan sizlarga berdim. Mening yordamchim berdi.
And because I do not speak English, and I have a written statement which will be read by my special assistant, which is me. I am very proud today to be in the company of a group of human rights activists, members of Congress, distinguished guests, and Madam Speaker Pelosi. I would like to express my special thanks to the organizers of very special event, to Dr. Yang Jianli and Jim Garan. We gather together here today to remember the tragedy of the many innocent people who were killed or injured during the tragic events of June 4th massacre. We gather to commemorate the calls for freedom and justice that were made by so many in the spring of 1989. And many of them were young people, even high school and college students. Many of these young men and women lost their lives, and today their mothers and fathers still grieve their loss. Even today, many of those who were involved in the June 4 protests remain in Chinese prisons. We also gathered together here today, Chinese, Uyghurs, Tibetans, Christians, Falun Gong, and all united in our struggle to bring about freedom and human rights for all people living under the tyranny of the People's Republic of China. We must continue the struggle that the Tiananmen protesters engaged in until one day everyone in China is free to express their beliefs, practice their religions, and live without fear of government persecution. My people are, of course, the Uyghur people. And as I say, the homeland we call is East Turkestan. We have been under Chinese rule since 1949. Then they changed the name of our country and named it as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The authorities gave us promises, such as self-rule. But since 1949, we have lost the right to speak, the right to publish, and we have lost our human rights, and even our right to educate our children according to our own language. However, since the massacre at Tiananmen Square, the challenge to the existence of the Uyghur people has only intensified. The Chinese government's thirst for energy to drive this booming economy and its growing dominance in global affairs has made the Uyghur presence in East Turkestan an inconvenience. The Chinese government is undertaking methodical, long and short-term measures at this very moment to solve the problem of the Uyghur people's presence in East Turkestan. It's happening in every area of Uyghur society, including its politics, economics, and culture. The Chinese Party Secretary Wang Lequan spoke during the Olympics that he wants to initiate a life and death struggle against the people in East Turkestan. And since 9/11, the Chinese government has used our religious faith in Islam against us and labeled peaceful Uyghurs as terrorists to justify crackdowns and security sweeps as part of the global war on terror. However, the Chinese government has not produced any credible evidence against so-called Uyghur terrorism. Nevertheless, the Chinese government has not stopped producing a catalog of human rights. Detention, torture, and frequent execution is committed almost on a daily basis. In addition to that, the Chinese government also initiated policy to forcibly transfer young Uyghur women from East Turkestan to eastern part of China to work in slave labor conditions. So far, some 240,000 of them have been transferred. Also, the Chinese government also banned the use of the Uyghur language starting as early as 2003. So our language cannot be spoken. Today, the Uyghur people are unable to express their voices in the world, but even the Han Chinese people are living under the same harsh violations of human rights. Because of our similar experience under the Chinese regime, Uyghurs stand together in solidarity with our Chinese, Tibetan, Mongol brothers, sisters, and all those who are being persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese government's fear of repression of religious expression and its intolerance for any expression of discontent link us all. A Uyghur called Urkesh, of course, as you know, was one of the student leaders in Tiananmen on the day of the massacre. So we ask the Chinese government to respect the rights of the Chinese people, the Uyghurs, Tibetans, Mongols, Falun Gong, Christians, and all those who suffer under China's brutal rule. We hope the Chinese government will not forget that the foundations for peace and harmony are based upon equality and equal relations, based upon freedom and true friendship. Without freedom, there can be no real peace. And without human rights and democracy, there can be no real stability. Thank you very much.